Alright, metalheads! Welcome back to another episode of Metal Verbalizers podcast. This podcast is for you that want to discover new fantastic metal. We feel that there aren't enough podcasts that support the underground scene. That's why the whole purpose of this podcast is to find new and or smaller bands and tell you about them. In this episode, we're going to talk about a band that play heavy metal, but with symphonic and very classical elements together with big choirs. This is something that I think is absolutely epic, and I think that you might as well. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about Infinite Corridor. For a few years, they played with Balázs, I think that's how you pronounce that name, in another band. The current two members of the band, Adam and Balázs, realized that they had similar vision about music. With that, they formed Infinite Corridor in 2023. So it is a very new band. It was in 2022 that they heard the term Infinite Corridor for the first time. This term sparked their imagination with stories, and they felt that the term was fitting as their band name. The influences for the guys in the band are similar but kind of different. Balázs influences and inspiration comes from bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Dio, and more, but also Beethoven. Then we have Adam. His influences are more Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Dio, which are the same as Balázs. But then we have Motorhead, Nightwish, and Devin Townsend, and more like that. Like we can see here, they are very similar, but there are some differences there as well. This is something that I personally like, because differences in influences are going to make the sound more unique. And I get now there are two in the band, but I guess in the future there are gonna be a 4-piece, 3-piece, 5-piece, I don't know what the plan is. But new musicians are gonna bring in, probably at least, even more versions of different lists of influences and stuff. So it's gonna be very interesting to follow the band and see how their sound is gonna be evolving depending on what band members they're gonna put in. Important to mention is that they are very new as a band, like we talked about. They started in 2023 and are still trying to find their voice in the scene and trying to find their own sound. They're often experimenting with so-called trailer music sound design, which is really cool. And that is to use the band's own interpretation of what they're doing. Jesus, a little voice crack there as well. Nice. Classical orchestras and big choirs are also something that they experiment with, which is super cool. All this experimenting lays on a very stable foundation of heavy metal. Their main goal is with their music to reach the level of the bands that has influenced them, like some of those that we mentioned, like Iron Maiden, Dio, and so on. I think that they have a huge potential to reach that goal, actually. Those exact things that they are experimenting with, those big choirs and orchestras and classical elements, is something that I love in music. It has even gotten me into metalcore bands, or deathcore bands like Lorna Shore and Immortal Disfigurement. Those bands has those symphonic elements that I actually love. I have absolutely hated growl and those extreme vocals, but symphonic metal is something that has been growing on me the last, 1 or 2 years. Much because of this podcast. I think that it is a lot because, like I said, this podcast, and bands like Infinite Corridor that dare to experiment with these things and mix the old with the new to make something real cool, if you know what I mean. A lot of their songs are centered around dreams, which is a very interesting concept, according to me. I think that they have a great example of that concept with their song Dreamwalker, which is a song that has another cool thing with it that I will talk to you about later. The song is about a mythical creature that guards the gates of dreams and prevents people from waking up. He is a servant whose job is to restart people's dreams to keep them in an endless cycle of deception. Another song of theirs is called Serpent Gate. It is about a deceptive gateway in dreams, and between life and death, it appears to be the exit from the dream world, but in reality it leads to only another layer of illusion. Additionally, in other songs you can find references to dreams, such as in Break the Mirror, where they sing, "Don't die from metal bullets, it's an illusion." So they started to build their image around the dreams and fantasy stories, which is super cool. I love this. Dreams can make you feel all sorts of feelings, so I think that it is a very interesting concept. Dreams kind of lets your imagination on overdrive, I guess. Dreams are built on pure imagination. Now we have talked about the band a little bit, and a little bit about the music as well. So I think it is time to take a closer look at the actual music that the band has put out. We're going to start off by having a look at the first 3 singles that were released in 2023. These are Ashwatthama, Straight Ahead, and Break the Mirror. Ashwatthama is a song with large choirs and shred riffs in the devil scale, if you know what I mean. Not too many symphonic elements at this point. Straight Ahead is a song where we get a very clear Iron Maiden feel, both in the rhythm and in the vocals. You're gonna hear what I mean when you listen to the song. I would not say that the vocals are a copy of Mr. Dickinson, but they are very inspired, and it feels like the vocalist is putting his vocals in the same place in his voice and use similar techniques. And actually, one more vocalist that the singer of this band has some similarities to is the singer of Avantasia, which is another band that I really like. Break the Mirror is a song where we start to get some symphonic elements, but they are used at this point very, very sparingly. The next 2 singles that we're going to talk about were released in 2024 now. These are Dreamwalker and Deserter. Exciting for these are that the band was joined by some guest vocalists. Dreamwalker is a song with a similar sound as the previous 3 singles, but we get a lot more heavy in it. Here we got more like blast beats even. Last but definitely not least, they are in this song joined by the absolute powerhouse of a legendary vocalist, Tim Ripper Owens. Probably most known for being a previous singer of Judas Priest when Rob left the band for a few years. I think it was around in the 90s or early 2000s that he was in Priest. Deserter is another ridiculously heavy song. Here we once again get some more symphonic elements and choirs, which I love. For this one we got another guest vocalist, and this time we got Scar to join them. Scar is mostly known from Equilibrium, and something that I love with this is that how Scar brings those more extreme vocals into the sound of the band, which really fits and works for this song. Next up is the full-length release, which was the full album by the name Serpent Gate. Of course, all of the singles are going to appear on this album. They have even included 2 versions of the song Dreamwalker. One with Tim Ripper Owen and one without. Once again, we got an impressively good debut. Especially since they are by themselves and without a label. In total, the album has 10 songs for you to rock out to. As a final release for now at least, they have put out another version of Deserter without Scar. I guess it is cool that they put out these alternative versions of the two singles with guest vocals. With these other versions, you will probably get a better idea of what the songs will sound like live, because they will probably not have Ripper and Scar with them when they play live. So it is interesting to see how they would imagine the songs to sound like in that sort of situation as well. Alright, so now we have gone through all of the band's releases that we have so far. That means that it is time for my segment that we call Erik's Top 5. This is to give you a few songs to start with when you're going to listen to the band for the first time. Since the band has only put out a single album so far, all of the songs on the list will be from their album Serpent Gate. So let's go. Number 1, Straight Ahead. Number 2, Break the Mirror. Number 3, Deserter. Number 4, Dreamwalker. And number 5, Wings of Freedom. That was my top 5 list. Now I want to know, what do you think? Do you like these songs? How would your top 5 list look? Would you have the same songs as me, or will you choose others? Join us on our social medias and tell us about it. As of right now, there are very exciting things in store for the band. When I contacted the band a few months ago, the plan was to recruit some more band members so that they can play their music live. And they also mentioned that they are going to, this year, start to write a new album. And for this second album, they promise a more unique and distinctive sound. Like I said earlier, I love that they dare to experiment with their sound. I also think that it is really cool that they collaborate with other artists. As a final word from the band themselves, we get some more information about the process of recording their debut. I think that it was well written, so I will now quote what they wrote. We recorded the main vocals, guitars and bass guitars at home in Hungary and Denmark. Drums were recorded by Dirk Meyer Beerhorn from Orden, Ogan in southeast Germany. Adam was very busy, but I had the opportunity to travel and present during the recordings, and be present during the recordings. So I had the opportunity to meet Dirk and Sebastian in person. The choirs were recording in Budapest, Hungary at Stray Heart Records. Fortunately, Adam had connections through the music school, so we were able to invite a few very good metal singers to sing in the choir. The main tracks were mixed and mastered by Sebastian Sieb Leverman from Orden Ogan, and while the bonus tracks were mixed and mastered by both Sieb and Dennis Cohen in Germany. Furthermore, we're honored to featuring 2 vocalists on the album, Tim Ripper Owens on the track Dreamwalker and Scar from Equilibrium on Deserter. We extend our heartfelt thanks to them for graciously agreeing to collaborate with us. End of quote. I think it's really cool that they that Ripper and Scar actually want to join these smaller bands and sing with them as well. I think it's super cool. I think that this is a good note to start wrapping things up. If Infinite Corridors sounds like it might be for you, do not hesitate to give them a chance and listen to their music. If it doesn't sound like it is what you usually like, give them a chance anyway. You might find something new that you will like. I find new bands and kinds of music all the time that I absolutely love. If you do like this band, I would like to encourage you to support them in any way that you can. If you can, buy their music, listen to them on Spotify, and follow their social media. If you follow their social media, you will get updates on what's next for the band. And remember, social media is one of the easiest ways to support and is even totally free. If you like what we are doing here on Metal Verbalizers podcast, bringing you new awesome rock and metal to enjoy, Don't forget to follow us on our social media as well. It is all about rock and roll and metal. And there you will also get updates on what bands we're going to verbalize next. Sometimes we even also talk to the bands and have them tell us stories from their tours and more. What you also can do is write to us and suggest bands that you would like us to talk about. We love it and always take suggestions in consideration when we plan our episodes. With that said, thank you for listening. You've been listening to Metal Verbalizers podcast, Verbalizing Infinite Corridor.